If I am what I have, and if I lose what I have, who then am I? Take a deep, conscious breath and allow those words to echo not in your mind, but in the most sacred, silent chamber of your soul. This isn't just a philosophical puzzle. It is the fundamental question that vibrates at the very core of your existence. A divine inquiry that your higher self has been whispering to you in the quiet moments of your life. It is the key that unlocks the prison you may not even realize you are in. If this question strikes a chord deep within you, if you feel a stirring of recognition, a flicker of a truth you've long felt but never named, then you are in precisely the right place at the divinely appointed time. This is not a coincidence. Your soul has guided you here for a reason. Acknowledge this sacred moment of alignment by letting your presence be known. Let the universe hear your soul's response by liking this message, subscribing to join this collective awakening, and sharing your own profound journey in the comments below. Perhaps you will simply write, "I am here," or "I understand," or type 777 to affirm that you are receiving this divine transmission. Your story is a vital thread in the grand tapestry we are weaving together, and your voice deserves to be heard. Now, I ask you to do something radical, something the world rarely allows. Stop for just a moment, halt the relentless momentum of your life. Cease the planning, the striving, the worrying, the endless scrolling. Step off the frantic treadmill of doing and simply be. In this stillness, I want you to become an observer, a silent witness to the grand play of your own life. Bring it into focus, not as a series of chaotic events, but as a masterpiece you have been painting, stroke by deliberate stroke. Observe it with the loving, non-judgmental eyes of your higher self. See the path you have walked, the mountains you have climbed, the rivers you have crossed. Look closely at the tapestry of your achievements, the threads of success that you have so painstakingly woven. Maybe you see the gleam of a respectable degree, a testament to years of intellectual labor, a key that promised to unlock certain doors. Perhaps you see the sturdy walls of a comfortable home or apartment, a sanctuary you have built against the world, filled with objects that tell a story of who you are, or who you believe you should be. Do you see the sleek lines of a car, a vessel of freedom and status that carries you through the world? Maybe you see a good job, a title that commands respect, a career that provides security and a sense of identity. Acknowledge these things. Honor the energy, the sacrifice, the dedication it took to acquire them. For many, the life you have built, or the life you are tirelessly chasing, is a beacon of success, a life that would be the very reason for envy in the eyes of others. It is the picture-perfect image projected onto the screen of society, earning nods of approval, the silent applause of a world that measures worth by what can be seen, touched, and counted. But now, I want you to look deeper. Beyond the polished surface of these accomplishments, past the curated gallery of your successes, look into the quiet spaces between the achievements. Tell the truth, not to me, but to the deepest part of yourself that knows no lies. When the night grows still and the world outside falls silent, when you finally lay your head upon your pillow and the only company you have is the rhythm of your own heart, is it truly peace that you feel? That profound, unshakable peace you so deeply desire, the peace you have been promised would be the ultimate reward for all you're having and all you're doing, is it there? Or is there something else that resides in that sacred silence? Is there a faint, persistent hum of restlessness, a subtle, gnawing emptiness in the pit of your stomach that no amount of success seems to fill? Do you feel an anxiety that you cannot name, a phantom that you desperately try to disguise with more work, more acquisitions, more distractions? Is there a constant, low-grade fear that whispers, "What's next? Is this all there is?" You may be chasing these things still, utterly convinced that once you finally grasp that next promotion, that bigger house, that perfect relationship, that milestone number on your bank account, then and only then will you finally feel at peace. You tell yourself, just one more thing, and I will be whole. Just one more achievement, and I can finally rest. This, my friend, is the great lie. It is the most pervasive and insidious illusion of the modern world, a spiritual sickness that has infected the collective consciousness. It is the lie that sustains a system built on perpetual striving and endless consumption. It is a way of life that the great soul physician Erich Fromm exposed with breathtaking clarity, a truth that he unearthed like no one else. He saw what very few have the courage to admit, even to themselves, that we are living in a constant, undeclared state of inner war. This is not a war fought on battlefields with weapons of steel, but a war fought within the sacred landscape of your own soul. It is a war created and sustained by a culture obsessed, fixated, and hypnotized by the mode of having. A culture that relentlessly programs you to equate your existence with accumulation, to define your worth by your ability to control, and to measure your value by your outward appearance. This is the hidden trap, the invisible prison whose walls are built from the very things you believe will set you free. From the moment you entered this world, from your earliest, most formative years, you have been conditioned to believe that your worth is not inherent, but conditional. It is something to be earned, proven, and displayed. You are taught that your value depends directly on what you possess. Remember the grades in school. A high mark was not just a measure of understanding. It was a token of your worthiness, a down payment on a future of success. A low mark was a sign of deficiency, a shadow cast upon your very being. Remember the power of material goods. The right toy, the fashionable clothes, the latest gadget. These were not just objects, they were instruments of social currency, tools for gaining acceptance and warding off the sting of exclusion. Think of the digital age, the relentless pursuit of followers, likes, and shares. Each notification, a tiny hit of validation, the lack thereof, a confirmation of irrelevance. Your social status, the title on your business card, the neighborhood you live in, all of these become extensions of your identity, external prosthetics for a self that has forgotten its own innate wholeness. This is a profound spiritual tragedy. We are no longer who we are. We become what we have. The divine, limitless essence of your being, your true self, becomes obscured, buried beneath layers of possessions, titles, and social masks. And here lies the cruel paradox of this mode of existence. The more you have, the more you have to lose. And the more you have to lose, the more fear takes root in your heart. The more insecure you become, clinging desperately to the external markers that you believe define you. Your life becomes a frantic, high-stakes game of defense, constantly guarding your possessions, your reputation, your image from the inevitable tides of change. You become utterly dependent on external validation, a puppet whose strings are pulled by the opinions of others, the trends of society, and the fluctuating numbers on a screen. This is why you can look at someone who appears to have it all: the money, the fame, the status, the seemingly perfect family, and see in their eyes a silent sadness, a profound loneliness, an emptiness that no material achievement can ever erase. It is the hollow echo of a soul that has been starved of its true nourishment. Because, while you are living in the mode of having, it makes no difference how much you accumulate. You could possess all the wealth in the world, command the admiration of millions, and build monuments to your success, but that deep, soul-level peace will never, ever arrive. It cannot. For it does not live in the realm of things. It is a frequency of being. As Erich Fromm so wisely stated, as long as you live to possess, to control, and to appear, you will be at war with yourself. This internal war is not loud and dramatic. It is insidious and corrosive. It manifests as a constant, low-level anxiety that becomes the background noise of your life. It shows up in the endless, exhausting comparison with others, a game where the finish line is always moving, ensuring you never feel like you are enough. It is the gnawing fear of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant in a world that worships the new and the shiny. It is the perpetual, nagging feeling that something is always missing, that true fulfillment is just around the corner, always one more purchase, one more accomplishment away. But the most dangerous aspect of this trap, the very thing that keeps the prison doors locked, is that most people don't even realize they are trapped in this cycle. They believe it is simply the way life is. They have so deeply internalized the cultural programming that they cannot imagine another way of existing. The culture we live in reinforces the illusion at every turn. We are bombarded, day in and day out, with a relentless barrage of messages that scream, buy more, achieve more, show more, be more, by having more. Advertisements don't just sell products, they sell the promise of happiness, belonging, and self-worth, all contingent upon a purchase. Social media doesn't just connect us, it creates a gladiator arena of comparison, where lives are curated into highlight reels, deepening the sense of inadequacy in those who watch. We are led to believe that happiness is a commodity to be purchased, that peace is a performance goal to be achieved. But it is not. And the sooner you understand this divine truth in every cell of your being, the sooner you can begin the sacred work of escaping this prison. In this journey we are taking together, we will explore this invisible trap in its most profound depths. We will dissect the mode of having and understand precisely why it dominates modern society. We will shine a light on its hidden effects, the subtle ways it prevents you from living a full, vibrant, and authentic life. But more importantly, we will discover what the other path is. The path of being. A path that does not depend on what you possess, but on the luminous, unshakable truth of who you truly are. So get ready. This will not be a comfortable exploration. It will confront you. It will challenge long-held certainties that you may not even know you carry. But if you have the courage, the divine courage, to follow this through to the end, you can take the first, most crucial step to free yourself from this inner war. Because believe me, and believe the wisdom of your own soul that brought you here, you will never find true, lasting peace until you learn this. The cycle of having is built upon a fundamental misunderstanding of identity. It teaches that the self is an object to be built, polished, and decorated with external accomplishments. Your resume becomes your biography, your bank account becomes your report card, and your social circle becomes your certificate of acceptance. Each of these external things becomes a brick in the fortress of the ego. This fortress might seem strong and impressive from the outside, but it is, in reality, a prison. Its high walls are meant to keep out the fear of nothingness, but they also prevent the light of true existence from coming in. The person living inside this fortress is not a king, but a warden, a prisoner of their own possessions, constantly anxious about any threat to the structure they've built. A downturn in the market, a critical comment online, the loss of a job, or even just the natural process of aging becomes a terrifying earthquake that threatens to bring the entire edifice crumbling down. Why? Because if the fortress is who you are, then its destruction feels like your own annihilation. This creates a state of perpetual, low-grade paranoia. You are always on guard, always defending, always reinforcing the walls. This defensive posture consumes an immense amount of life, energy that could be used for creativity, for love, for joy, for genuine connection. Let's delve deeper into this conditioning. Since the early years of life, almost without us realizing it, each of us begins to be shaped by a system that values having above all else. As a child, we learn that good grades bring approval. It's not just about the joy of learning, it's about acquiring the A grade. The grade becomes a possession, a symbol of our worth that we can show to our parents and teachers. We learn that new toys guarantee affection, or at least attention. The toy becomes a tool to negotiate social belonging. We learn that wearing the right clothes, having the right brand, generates acceptance among our peers. We learn to construct an image, a persona, that is pleasing to the outside world. This logic, instilled in us from our most vulnerable years, deepens over time. It becomes an unconscious operating system that runs in the background of our lives. Society reinforces this message relentlessly. It says, do you want to be someone? Then you must have a good job. You must have a car. You must have a desirable body. You must have success. Everything, absolutely everything, revolves around the verb to have. Life becomes a frantic scavenger hunt for things to add to our collection, be they material objects, experiences, relationships, or even spiritual concepts. We have a degree, we have a family, we have a spiritual practice. The language itself reveals the trap. We treat every aspect of our lives as a possession. But there is one critical detail that few notice in this endless pursuit. Every time you believe that your worth depends on what you possess, you drift a little further away from who you really are. You begin to build an identity that is not rooted in the fertile ground of your inner being, but in the shifting sands of the external world. And the stronger this externally built identity becomes, the more fragile it is, because everything you have can be lost. Money can disappear. Appearance fades with time. Fame is notoriously fickle. Status is a social construct that can change overnight. None of this is permanent. And when what you are gets confused with what you have, any threat to those possessions becomes a direct threat to your very identity. This is the source of so much human suffering. This is why so many people live in a constant state of anxiety. It is the fear of losing. It is the need to maintain the image, the facade. It is the incessant, soul-crushing comparison with others, always measuring your collection against theirs. It's an invisible prison that consumes your energy, your time, and your mental health. Erich Fromm was direct and uncompromising in his diagnosis. He saw that the mode of having is a pathology of modern culture. It generates an endless cycle of dissatisfaction because the more someone accumulates, the more they realize it is not enough. The pleasure of a new achievement, a new purchase, soon fades, and the next goal, the next craving, immediately arises. It's a hunger that can never be satiated, a thirst that can never be quenched, because it is seeking sustenance in a barren land. We are trying to fill a spiritual void with material things, and it is an impossible task. This creates a state of existential boredom, a profound sense of meaninglessness that haunts modern life. And so, many people spend their entire lives in this never-ending race, always believing that one day, upon achieving just one more thing, they will finally feel peace. But that day never comes. Worse still, the mode of having is not limited to material possessions. It contaminates the most sacred aspects of our existence, our human relationships. Many people treat their partners, their friends, and even their colleagues as just another item to be possessed. They say, my boyfriend, my wife, my followers, my employees. The possessive pronoun, my, reveals a deep-seated orientation of ownership and control. People become objects of possession, and like any object, they are expected to meet certain expectations, to provide certain benefits. If they do not, they are often discarded or replaced. This way of living isolates us. It creates a culture of superficiality, distrust, and alienation. Because when everything and everyone becomes a commodity to be acquired and used, true human connection disappears. There is no genuine encounter, only a transaction. There is no unconditional love, only a conditional contract. Deep down, every human being longs for meaning, for belonging, and for authentic love. We yearn to be seen and accepted for who we are, not for what we have. But the mode of having makes that impossible. As Fromm said, the illusion of possessing suffocates the capacity to be. And so the trap is set. A lifetime dedicated to possessing, controlling, and appearing. And what remains at the end of it all? Emptiness, restlessness, anguish. But there is an even deeper, more hidden price. A devastating psychological effect that silently corrodes the souls of those who remain trapped in this cycle. And it is precisely about this hidden price that we must now speak. Get ready, because understanding, this is where the true impact of the trap is revealed, and where the first glimpse of a way out begins to emerge. At first glance, living to conquer, accumulate, and control may even seem like a legitimate and logical strategy for navigating the world. After all, who doesn't want financial security? Who doesn't seek recognition for their efforts or desire a comfortable life? These are not inherently negative aspirations. The illusion is subtle. It is not the things themselves that are the problem, but the relationship we form with them. The trap is sprung the moment our sense of self becomes fused with these external things. What almost no one realizes, and what Erich Fromm made so profoundly clear in his work, is that the psychological price for this choice of existence is far, far higher than one might think. The mode of having not only fuels an exhausting and incessant race for more, but it gradually and systematically poisons the relationship that the individual has with themselves, with others, and with the world around them. In the beginning, everything seems to work. Achievements bring small, fleeting doses of pleasure, a temporary sense of accomplishment. A new purchase provides a brief surge of excitement. A promotion offers a momentary boost to the ego, but this pleasure is fleeting. It soon fades, like a sugar high, making way for a new restlessness, a new craving. This is because the mind, once it becomes accustomed to measuring its own worth by possessions and status, can never find a permanent resting point. There is always something more to be conquered, always a new step to climb on the endless ladder, always a new object of desire shimmering on the horizon. This constant state of lack, of not enoughness, generates chronic anxiety. It is the fear of losing what one has. It is the terror of not being enough in the eyes of others. It is the crushing weight of falling behind in a world that demands constant performance and comparison at every moment. And when this anxiety settles in, as the permanent backdrop of life, it undermines mental health, it weakens emotional bonds, and it distorts the very perception of reality. The person begins to live in a state of constant, high-alert defensiveness, a restlessness that even the greatest achievements cannot silence, because deep down there is a profound dissonance. No matter how much one conquers on the outside, something deep inside knows that this does not fill the existential void. This void is the second hidden price of the mode of having, a profound, often unspoken, sense of lack of meaning, even when surrounded by an abundance of possessions and achievements. The individual realizes, whether consciously or unconsciously, that all of it, the career, the house, the accolades, the social standing, is transient, fragile, and ultimately superficial. And the more they try to drown this void with new acquisitions, the deeper and more cavernous it becomes. This is the very root of the existential boredom that Fromm described, a boredom that does not arise from the absence of activities, but from the absence of meaning. A life dedicated solely to having does not and cannot answer the most fundamental questions of the human soul. Who am I? What is my purpose? What truly connects me to existence? And then there is a third price, perhaps the most painful of all: alienation. When everything becomes an object of possession, belongings, people, even one's own identity, the individual distances themselves from their own true essence. They begin to live a manufactured version of themselves, a persona shaped by external expectations and the cultural imperative of consumption. In this state, authenticity is lost. Relationships become superficial transactions, and the connection with the deeper dimensions of life, love, compassion, creativity, spirituality, weakens and atrophies. Erich Fromm was incisive. The mode of having isolates a person from their true nature and deprives them of the authentic experience of living. And when this happens, the person not only feels empty and anxious, they become a stranger to themselves, a disconnected being floating amidst an existence they no longer understand or feel a part of. This is the hidden price that millions pay every single day, often without even realizing it. But what if there were an alternative? What if there existed another way of living? A way capable of dissolving this anxiety, filling this void, and restoring the connection to what truly matters. Generated code. It is a profound and fundamental shift in consciousness, a journey from the outside in. It is the path that Erich Fromm called the mode of being. And the difference between this mode and the mode of having could not be deeper, more absolute. In the mode of having, your identity is inextricably tied to your possessions, your achievements, and to what is displayed and validated by the world. It is an existence predicated on the exterior, on what can be accumulated, measured, and shown. On the other hand, in the mode of being, the experience of life occurs not through acquisition, but through authentic, vibrant, and present moment encounters with the now, with others, and most critically, with your own inner essence. In the mode of being, one does not seek to possess love. One seeks to live it, to become a vessel and expression of it. One does not try to control life. One allows it to flow through them, to be lived with presence and authenticity. One does not measure one's worth by endless, agonizing comparisons. One recognizes the intrinsic, unchangeable value of one's being, simply for existing. It is the difference between desperately trying to own a beautiful painting and becoming the artist who is alive with the fire of creation. Fromm emphasized that this mode of being is not a state of passivity, much less a resigned acceptance of fate. On the contrary, it is a state of full and potent activity, of deep and meaningful engagement with life. When one lives in the mode of being, every single moment, no matter how mundane it may seem, can become a profound expression of one's own essence. Talking with a friend is no longer a networking opportunity, but a sacred communion of souls. Contemplating a landscape is not an Instagram post in the making, but a moment of deep connection with the beauty and divinity of nature. Creating something with one's own hands, whether it's a meal, a garden, or a piece of art, is not about the final product to be judged, but about the joyful process of bringing something new into the world. Listening with true, undivided attention to another human being becomes an act of profound love. All of these simple acts take on a deeper, more resonant meaning because one is no longer chasing after something external. One is simply living fully and completely. It is in the dynamic flow of these authentic experiences that the mode of being flourishes, and each moment of true presence, of genuine connection, weakens the dominance of the having paradigm a little more. Another essential aspect of this transition is understanding the quality of your relationships. Relationships based on having are fundamentally utilitarian. The unspoken question is always, what can this person provide for me? What status, security, pleasure, or advantage can I gain from this connection? Relationships based on being, however, are authentic encounters between two consciousnesses. They are founded on shared presence, on the unmasked dialogue that allows the sacred space for being to be built between two souls. Therefore, surrounding yourself with people who share these values, who see you for who you are and not what you have, is vital fuel for this profound transformation. Finally, and this is a lifelong practice, it is necessary to develop inner courage. This isn't the brute courage of the battlefield, but the quiet, steadfast courage of the soul. It is the courage to face the fear of losing status, the fear of being misunderstood by a world that doesn't speak your language, the fear of not meeting the endless external expectations that have been placed upon you. It is the courage to stand in your own truth and declare, even if only to yourself, I choose to be, even when the whole world seems to value the opposite. It is the courage to listen to your inner voice, even when that voice, shaped by years of conditioning, still whispers that this path is risky. And yes, it is risky. It is risky to step out of the comfort of the herd. It is risky to abandon the old, familiar certainties that, while suffocating, provided a false sense of safety. But the greatest risk of all is another: to live an entire life as a prisoner of the mode of having, and in the end, realize that you were never truly free. Now you know the way. Deep down, your soul recognizes this truth. You know what needs to be done, but there is a monumental decision that still needs to be made. And this choice, this sacred, life-altering choice, is one that no one else can make for you. It is the choice between continuing in the old, exhausting cycle of having, accumulating, competing, pretending, always hoping that one day, by some external miracle, peace will finally arrive here. Will you decide to start, right here and right now, to consciously and deliberately cultivate a new way of living? The first and most formidable obstacle is the ancestral fear of disappearing. This is not a mere psychological quirk. It is an existential terror that has been conditioned into our collective DNA over millennia. Deep down, the identity that has been so painstakingly built around having, our possessions, our status, our achievements, sees a fortress, an armor against the terrifying void of non-existence. It offers a false, yet deeply comforting, sense of security. The internal logic, often unconscious, whispers a seductive promise: if I have enough, I will be loved. If I am successful enough, I will be respected. If I accumulate enough, I will be protected. To let go of this armor, to voluntarily dismantle this fortress, means exposing oneself to the raw, unfiltered reality of existence. It means revealing who you truly are without the adornments, the titles, the masks that have provided a sense of safety and identity. And for many, This level of vulnerability is utterly unbearable. It feels like standing naked in the midst of a storm. Furthermore, this fear is amplified by the deeply ingrained fear of rejection. We are social creatures, hardwired for connection and belonging. The society we live in, however, still predominantly and superficially values material success and curated image. Those who dare to choose a different path, who prioritize being over having, risk being misunderstood, marginalized, or dismissed. They may be seen as strange, naive, impractical, or non-competitive. The social pressure to conform, even if it is veiled in subtle expectations and unspoken judgments, is brutal and relentless. To choose the path of being is to risk being an outsider, and that can trigger our most primal fears of abandonment. And then, there is an even more subtle, yet no less powerful, obstacle: the tyranny of habit. Decades of life shaped by the mode of having create deeply ingrained automatic patterns of thought, behavior, and emotional reaction. These are the neural pathways that have been carved into our brains since childhood. The relentless pursuit of more, the constant comparison, the gnawing fear of scarcity, these become our default settings. Even when the conscious mind recognizes the profound damage of this model, the body and the psyche often continue to operate on autopilot. They are like a ship that continues to sail in its old direction even after the captain has decided to change course. They always revert to what is familiar, to comparison, to the relentless pursuit, to the fear of scarcity. Breaking these deeply conditioned habits requires more than just a fleeting insight. It requires constant vigilance, deep and unwavering self-knowledge, and above all, a fierce and relentless commitment to one's own inner growth and liberation. As the wise Erich Fromm said, authentic freedom is not something that is won once and for all. It is not a destination you arrive at, but a constant movement, a renewed choice that must be made at every single moment of your life. Choosing the mode of being is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process, a sacred path that requires discipline, courage, and infinite patience. So, how does one begin this monumental journey? How can someone start to navigate such a radically different path in a world that relentlessly glorifies accumulation and appearance? The first step is the cultivation of radical self-awareness. It is necessary to see, with total and unflinching honesty, where and how the mode of having operates in your life. In what areas do you still measure your worth by what you possess or the status you hold? In what moments do you find yourself acting more to appear a certain way than to simply be who you are? This investigation is not comfortable. It will reveal difficult truths. It will expose the hidden insecurities and fears that drive your behavior. But it is absolutely necessary. Without this deep, honest look, the old patterns will continue to operate in the shadows, unconsciously guiding your choices and keeping you tethered to a life of quiet desperation. The second step is the practice of conscious detachment. And again, it is crucial to understand that this is not about renouncing the world or living a life of ascetic denial. Possessing things is not the problem. The problem is being possessed by them. When an object, an image, or a title defines who you are, you become its slave. The challenge, therefore, is to learn to enjoy the things, experiences, and people in your life without letting them determine your fundamental worth or your core identity. It is about holding the world lightly, appreciating its beauty without clinging to it. It is about knowing, in your bones, that your value is not in what you hold in your hands, but in the love and presence you hold in your heart. But there is an alternative. It is not a quick fix or a simple technique. It is a radical transformation of consciousness. It is the path Fromm called the mode of being. The difference is absolute. In the mode of having, identity is tied to what you possess. In the mode of being, identity flows from the authentic experience of life itself. In being, you don't seek to possess love. You become an expression of it. You don't try to control life. You allow it to flow through you. You don't measure your worth by comparison. You recognize your intrinsic value simply because you exist. The mode of being is not passive. It is a state of full activity and deep engagement, Every momenta conversation, a walk in nature, the creation of a meal becomes an expression of your essence, a moment of true connection. In this state, relationships are no longer utilitarian. They are authentic encounters between souls, building a sacred space of mutual recognition. To begin this transition requires several things. First, it demands profound self-awareness. It requires you to look with total honesty at your life and see where and how the mode of having operates. Where do you still measure your worth by possessions or status? In what moments do you act more to appear than to be? This investigation is uncomfortable because it reveals difficult truths, but it is absolutely necessary. Without this deep look, the old pattern will continue to operate in the shadows, guiding your choices without you even realizing it. The second step is detachment, but not in the way it is commonly understood. It is not about renouncing everything or living like a hermit. The detachment that Fromm proposes is an inner detachment, a change in your relationship with things, people, and even yourself. Possessing is not the problem. The problem is being possessed by what you own. When an object or an image defines who you are, you become a slave to it. The challenge is to learn to enjoy things, experiences, and relationships without letting them determine your worth or your identity. Thirdly, it is essential to cultivate authentic experiences. This means consciously engaging in activities that express who you are, not what society expects you to be. Creating, sharing, learning, loving not to impress, but to fully live the moment. It is in the flow of these authentic, non-transactional experiences that the mode of being flourishes. Each moment of genuine presence weakens the grip of the having paradigm. Another crucial aspect is the quality of your relationships. Surround yourself with people who see and value your being, not just your having. These connections provide vital support and reinforcement for this transformation. Finally, this journey requires immense inner courage. It is the courage to face the fear of losing status, of being misunderstood, of not meeting external expectations. It is the courage to say, "I choose to be," even when the world is screaming at you to have more. This courage must be summoned to face the fear of the unknown, the fear of letting go of the old, familiar identity. This letting go can feel like a death, but it is the necessary death of a false self to allow for the birth of your true, authentic being. Yes, it is risky to step out of the herd. It is risky to abandon old certainties, but the greatest risk is to live an entire life as a prisoner of the mode of having, only to realize at the end that you were never truly free. You now know the way. The choice is yours. Will you continue in the old cycle, or will you start, here and now, to cultivate a new way of living? A life where peace doesn't have to be pursued, because it arises naturally from the state of simply, authentically, and courageously being. The profound journey from a life dominated by the mode of having to one that blossoms in the mode of being is the most essential spiritual pilgrimage you can undertake. It is a metamorphosis of the soul, a conscious choice to shed a heavy, ill-fitting armor and step into the luminous, vibrant truth of your own essence. Yet, this path is fraught with immense challenges, deep-seated fears, and powerful, invisible barriers that keep the majority of humanity firmly imprisoned. Why is this change, this liberation, so profoundly difficult? Why do so many people, even when they glimpse the emptiness of their pursuit, remain trapped in the relentless cycle of accumulation and comparison? The answer is not simple. It is rooted in the deepest layers of our psyche and woven into the very fabric of the society we inhabit. Understanding these barriers is not an academic exercise. It is the critical first step in dismantling them. It is akin to a prisoner meticulously studying the design of their cell, not to admire its construction, but to find its hidden weaknesses, its points of potential escape. Thirdly, it is essential to actively cultivate authentic experiences. This is the antidote to existential boredom. This means deliberately engaging in activities that express your true self, your innate passions, and your deepest values, not what you think society expects of you. Creating, sharing, learning, loving, not for the sake of impressing others, not for a result that can be measured or displayed, but for the sheer joy of the process, for the profound fulfillment of fully living the moment. It is in the vibrant, creative flow of these authentic experiences that the mode of being truly flourishes. Every moment of genuine presence, of true connection, serves to weaken the dominance of the mode of having and to fortify your connection to your true self. Another essential component of this path is nurturing high-quality relationships. Actively seek out and surround yourself with people who share these deeper values, individuals who see and celebrate you for your being, not for your having. Relationships based on the mode of having are inherently utilitarian and transactional. They are built on the unspoken question of, what can you do for me? But relationships based on the mode of being are authentic encounters between conscious souls. They are spaces of genuine listening, of welcoming gazes, of unmasked dialogue. In these sacred connections, the space for being is built and nurtured. This is the vital fuel, the supportive ecosystem that makes the profound transformation possible. Finally, and this is the cornerstone of the entire journey, you must develop a deep and abiding inner courage. The courage to face the fear of losing status, of being misunderstood, of not meeting the external expectations of a world that may not understand your path. It is the courage to say, I choose to be, even when your own inner voice, shaped by years of conditioning, whispers that this is risky, that this is unsafe. Yes, it is risky to step out of the herd. It is risky to abandon the old certainties. But the greatest risk, the ultimate tragedy, is to live an entire life as a prisoner of the mode of having, only to arrive at the end and realize that you were never truly free. Now, you have been shown the way. You know what needs to be done. But a decision still awaits, a choice that only you can make. Will you remain in the old cycle, forever chasing a peace that will never arrive? Or will you, here and now, begin the sacred work of cultivating a new way of living? A life where anxiety loses its grip, where the masks fall away, and where an inner space of true freedom, true love, and true peace can finally flourish. This choice is not easy. It requires courage. It requires presence. It requires a daily commitment to self-knowledge. But it is a choice worth making, because in the end, it is not what you possess that defines your life. It is, and always has been, who you choose to be. The hidden price of this life orientation is a trinity of suffering, pervasive anxiety, a gnawing existential emptiness, and a profound alienation from one's true self. While the pursuit of security and comfort seems logical, the danger lies in fusing our identity with these external achievements. The mode of having poisons our inner world. Initially, success offers fleeting pleasure, but this fades into a restless craving for more. The mind, conditioned to measure worth externally, never finds peace, creating a chronic anxiety fueled by the fear of loss and inadequacy. This constant state of defense drains life energy and distorts our reality. This leads to the second price, an existential void. No amount of material success can fill a spiritual hunger. We realize our possessions are transient and superficial, and the more we acquire, the deeper the void becomes. This is the root of existential boredom, a life devoid of true meaning because it cannot answer the soul's deepest questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? The third price is alienation. When everything becomes a possession, we become disconnected from our authentic essence, living a manufactured persona. True human connection disappears, replaced by transactional relationships. The deeper dimensions of life love, creativity, spirituality atrophy. As Erich Fromm stated, the illusion of possessing suffocates the capacity to be. We become strangers to ourselves, trapped in a hollow existence. Yet, there is an alternative, the mode of being. This is a radical shift in consciousness, from an external to an internal locus of identity. In the mode of being, life is experienced through authentic, present-moment encounters. You don't possess love, you live it. You don't control life, you flow with it. Your worth is intrinsic, not comparative. This is not passivity, but a state of full, vibrant activity. Every moment becomes a profound expression of your essence. Relationships become sacred communions, not utilitarian contracts. To embark on this journey, one must first cultivate radical self-awareness, honestly examining how the mode of having operates in one's life. This requires seeing where worth is still measured by possessions and status. This introspection is uncomfortable but essential for breaking free from old patterns. The second step is inner detachment. This is not about renouncing the world, but changing your relationship with it. The goal is to enjoy life's offerings without being possessed by them, knowing that your true worth lies within. Thirdly, cultivate authentic experiences. Engage in activities that express your true self, not for external validation, but for the joy of the process itself. This is the antidote to existential boredom. Nurture relationships based on being, surrounding yourself with those who value your authentic self. These connections are the fertile ground for transformation. Finally, develop inner courage, the courage to face the fear of losing status, of being misunderstood, and of letting go of a familiar but false identity. This can feel like a death, but it is the necessary shedding of an old skin to allow for the emergence of your true self. It is a risky path, but the greatest risk is to live an entire life as a prisoner, only to find you were never truly free. The choice is yours. Continue the chase, or begin the journey of being. The peace you seek is not outside of you. It is the natural state that arises when you courageously choose to be who you truly are. Embracing the mode of being is not a destination, but a continuous, dynamic process, a sacred art of living that requires conscious cultivation in every moment. It is about shifting your entire orientation from the external world of objects and appearances to the internal landscape of your own soul, your own authentic experience. So, how do we begin to practically apply this profound wisdom and start the transition from the having mode to the being mode? Erich Fromm, with his deep psychological and spiritual insight, provided not just a diagnosis of our cultural malady, but also the essential elements of a cure. The journey from having to being is not a sudden leap, but a series of deliberate, conscious steps that, over time, can radically transform your way of existing. It does not happen by chance, nor is it a transformation that comes from the outside. It is a choice that requires awareness, intention, and above all, constant, courageous action. But where to start? How can someone navigate such a radically different path in a world that glorifies accumulation and appearance? The very first step is the cultivation of a profound and radical self-awareness. It is absolutely necessary to become an honest and compassionate observer of your own mind. You must begin to see, with total honesty, where and how the mode of having operates within your life. In what areas do you still unconsciously measure your worth by your possessions or your social status? In what specific moments do you find yourself acting more to appear a certain way than to simply be who you truly are? This investigation is not comfortable. It demands that you look at the difficult truths you have been avoiding. It reveals the hidden fears and insecurities that drive so much of your behavior. But it is an absolutely necessary prerequisite for any genuine change. Without this deep, unflinching look into the mirror of your own psyche, the old, conditioned patterns will continue to operate in the shadows, silently guiding your choices and keeping you imprisoned without you even realizing it. You must become the detective of your own soul, tracking the fingerprints of the having mode on your thoughts, your words, and your actions. The second crucial step is the intentional practice of detachment, but this must be understood in its correct spiritual sense. It is not about renouncing everything you own or living like a hermit in a cave. The detachment that Fromm proposes is an inner detachment, a fundamental shift in your relationship with the things, people, and even the ideas in your life. Remember, possessing is not the problem. The problem is being possessed by what you own. When an object, an image, a title, or a belief defines who you are, you become its slave. The challenge, therefore, is to learn to enjoy and appreciate the world without letting it determine your worth or your identity. It is the ability to use things without being used by them. It is the freedom to love people without needing to control or own them. It's a change in the very foundation of your relationship with the world, a move from clinging to appreciating, from grasping to experiencing. Thirdly, it is essential to consciously and actively cultivate authentic experiences. This is the practical antidote to the existential boredom and emptiness that the mode of having creates. This means engaging in activities that are an expression of your true self, not what society or your conditioned ego expects you to be. What activities make you feel truly alive? What brings you a sense of genuine, unadulterated joy, not for the outcome, but for the process itself? Creating, sharing, learning, loving. These are the verbs of the being mode. Not to impress, not to gain something, but to fully live the moment. It is in the vibrant, creative flow of these authentic experiences that the mode of being flourishes. Each moment of genuine presence, of true, heartfelt connection, weakens the dominance of the having mode and strengthens your connection to your core self. Another essential aspect of this transformation is nurturing high-quality, authentic relationships. Make a conscious choice to surround yourself with people who share these deeper values, individuals who see, appreciate, and celebrate you for your being, not just for your having. Relationships that are based on the mode of having are inherently utilitarian and transactional. They are built on the unspoken question of, what can you provide for me? But relationships that are grounded in the mode of being are authentic encounters between two conscious beings. They are built on a foundation of true listening, of a welcoming gaze, of unmasked, vulnerable dialogue. It is in these sacred spaces of genuine connection that the experience of being is mutually nurtured and built. This is the vital fuel, the supportive ecosystem, that makes this profound transformation not just possible, but sustainable. Finally, and this underpins all the other steps, it is necessary to develop and cultivate inner courage. The courage to face the fear of losing status, of being misunderstood, of not meeting the external expectations of a world that may not understand your new path. It is the courage to say, I choose to be, even when your own inner voice, shaped by years of conditioning, whispers that this is risky, that this is foolish, that this is unsafe. Yes, it is risky to step out of the herd. It is risky to abandon the old, familiar certainties that, while suffocating, provided a false sense of security. But the greatest risk of all, the ultimate existential tragedy, is to live an entire life as a prisoner of the mode of having, only to reach the end and realize, with devastating clarity, that you were never truly free. Now, you have seen the way. Your soul, if you listen closely, recognizes the truth in these words. You know, on some level, what needs to be done. But there is a decision, a fundamental choice, that still needs to be made. A choice that no one in the universe can make for you. Will you continue in the old, exhausting, and ultimately unfulfilling cycle of having? Will you continue accumulating, competing, pretending, and forever hoping that one day, by some external miracle, peace will finally arrive? Or will you decide, right here and right now, to begin the sacred, challenging, and profoundly rewarding work of cultivating a new way of living? Because it must be said with absolute, unwavering honesty, as long as you live primarily in the mode of having, you will be at war with yourself. It doesn't matter how much you achieve. It doesn't matter what you show the world. The emptiness will remain. The peace you seek will never come from the outside. But when you choose to be, something fundamental, something alchemical, shifts within your very being. Anxiety loses its grip. The masks fall away. And a vast, quiet, sacred inner space begins to open, a space where true freedom, true love, and true, unshakable peace can finally take root and flourish. This choice is not easy. It requires courage. It requires presence. It requires a daily, moment-to-moment commitment to self-knowledge and self-love. But it is a choice that is profoundly worth making. Because in the end, it is not what you possess that defines your life. It is, and always has been, who you choose to be. I want to hear from you now. What part of this message resonated most deeply within you? What specific point made you pause and reflect on the path of your own life? Share your thoughts, your feelings, your truth in the comments below. Your perspective is a precious gift that can inspire and bring a sense of connection to others who are also on this path. And if you feel that this content has touched your soul, if you are ready to continue on this sacred journey of self-knowledge and profound reflection, then be sure to watch the next video. The journey of self-knowledge, the path of deep reflection, does not end here. The next steps we will explore are essential for truly anchoring this transformation in your day-to-day reality. I will see you there. The transition from a life governed by having to one rooted in being is the ultimate spiritual quest, a conscious metamorphosis of the soul. It involves shedding the heavy armor of external validation to embrace the vibrant truth of one's essence. This path, however, is laden with challenges and fears that keep most of humanity imprisoned. To break free, we must first understand these barriers. The most formidable obstacle is the deep-seated, ancestral fear of non-existence. The identity built around possessions and achievements acts as a fortress against this void, offering a false sense of security. The logic is seductive. If I have enough, I will be loved, respected, and protected. Letting go of this armor means embracing vulnerability, a state that feels unbearable to many. This fear is amplified by the fear of rejection. In a society that values material success, choosing the path of being risks being seen as strange or naive, triggering our primal fear of abandonment. Another powerful obstacle is habit. Decades of conditioning create automatic patterns of thought and behavior centered on accumulation and comparison. Even with conscious awareness, the psyche often reverts to these familiar, deeply ingrained pathways. Breaking these habits requires constant vigilance, self-knowledge, and a relentless commitment to inner growth. As Erich Fromm noted, authentic freedom is not a one-time achievement, but a continuous process of renewed choice. So, how does one begin this journey? The first step is radical self-awareness. One must honestly observe how the mode of having operates in their life. This involves identifying where worth is measured by possessions and where actions are driven by the desire to appear rather than to be. This introspection, while uncomfortable, is essential for change. The second step is inner detachment. This isn't about renouncing the world, but changing one's relationship with it. The goal is to enjoy life's experiences and possessions without being possessed by them, recognizing that true worth is internal. Third, one must cultivate authentic experiences, engaging in activities that express the true self, for the joy of the process rather than for external validation, is the antidote to existential boredom. This fosters the mode of being. Nurturing authentic relationships is also crucial. Surrounding oneself with people who value one's being, not just their havings, creates a supportive ecosystem for transformation. These relationships are based on genuine connection, not utility. Finally, this journey requires inner courage, the courage to face the fear of losing status, of being misunderstood, and of letting go of a false but familiar identity. This is the courage to choose to be, in a world that constantly pressures one to have. This path is risky, but the greatest risk is living a life of quiet desperation, only to realize at the end that one was never truly free. The choice is profound and personal. Will you continue the endless, unfulfilling chase of the having mode, or will you embark on the sacred, rewarding journey of being? The peace you seek is not an external acquisition, but an internal state that emerges from the courageous choice to be your authentic self. The journey is challenging, but it is the only one that leads to true freedom and fulfillment.